Thanks for tuning in to this episode of UMBC's Mic'd Up podcast. Today, we are going to be speaking with Keenan Hickman, a recent graduate of UMBC's Community Leadership Graduate Program. Hey, Keenan, it's so wonderful to have you here on the UMBC Mic'd Up podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Denise. It's a pleasure to have a conversation again with you.
Yeah, we did speak last year during COVID, maybe the year before. All the years sort of meshed together, but we spoke about the community partnership that you were involved in through UMBC's Community Leadership Graduate Program. And it sounded like such a cool partnership. I know that your community partner was thrilled with you. And when we talked, it sounded like you were thrilled with the community partner as well. And that together you were able to make some great strides in the project that you worked on. And it just sounds like a really great opportunity for a young professional who may or may not have experience in the field that you're studying to be able to go out there into the world and roll up your sleeves and do the work and see what it's like to work within that realm. What was that like for you?
I really enjoyed that experience, the applied learning. It was very practical for my education. It was very useful for me in that, when we were going through that, it was the pandemic and I had to adjust to the virtual scene. And I was a little concerned at first as to how that would play out with the community partner, but it ended up working out. And it actually played out with my project in that we were able to think about new ways to be digitally inclusive. And with the community partner that I was with was Thread, which is an organization that works with youth, providing them with mentors. And usually that's in person. But during the pandemic, we were thinking of how can we connect them to people that they may not be able to meet with individually in person. And also, how can we think about what they might be working towards in the future career-wise? So the project basically revolved around opening up the virtual space and taking advantage of it to connect them with leaders in the field, different industries in different countries or states, in a way that they weren't necessarily able to do if, you had to meet that person in person.
Absolutely. And for anybody who is listening to this or watching this on YouTube, I will be linking to that community partnership Thread story and a video that I produced. I'll be linking to that in the show notes. So if you're curious about the actual project itself and what transpired, watch that. It's a really cool, it's like 2 minutes long, maybe 3 minutes max. And it's just it's well worth the time to be able to listen to this great story. Now, Keenan, what do you love most about community leadership as a career choice?
I love that it's rooted at its core in understanding other people and including those people in the process of reaching a common goal. And I think that can play out in whatever workforce that you're in. And it doesn't necessarily have to be work either. You could just be in your day-to-day life. How can you be a leader in your community and withholding those principles with you every way that you operate?
What I love about what you just said is that it applies to not just work life. It actually applies to your personal life as well. And to me, isn't that the greatest benefit when you can combine work and personal life and be able to enjoy the attributes of both of those and to be able to bring the attributes, the qualities that you need in both of those spheres of your life together? I think that's a really great learning opportunity, growth opportunity, and just a way to be able to serve and give back to the community at large.
Yeah, I'd agree. I typically don't like to be cornered, or not cornered, but narrowed. And I think, this is broad enough that it could play out in many different scenarios.
That's right. It's not a career field that is so niche that if you didn't like it, just say, when you get out into the real world, it's not one of those fields where you're pigeonholed and, well, gosh, now I have to do this. It's something that has so many, like you said, universal type of appeals and qualities that you can bring community leadership to most any field, because we all need those leaders.
Exactly.
Well, have your career goals changed from when you first entered the program, that first class you took, to now that you've graduated?
I think so. I know when I came into the program, I wasn't exactly sure what career that I wanted to dive into, but I did know that I was curious about challenging myself by entering a new industry and going back to school to be mentally stimulated in that way. And, I believe the community leadership program did that for me by introducing me to, the whole field of social entrepreneurship, for example, which ended up being my focus during my time in the program.
That's great. Now, for somebody who doesn't know what community leadership is, how would you describe it to somebody like that?
Yeah, I believe it involves having a heightened awareness of yourself and, the people in the communities that you coexist with. That includes, having the awareness to think about someone else's perspective and their leadership style and how that might best work out as far as reaching a goal that you're trying to reach with your organization. And it plays out in a variety of ways.
Where would a community be without community leadership, in your opinion?
I think a community would be either stuck or backwards. No matter what, there's always somebody in the community who is advocating for something that's bigger than themselves. It's broad enough that it's not always political either. You don't have to be the mayor to be a community leader. You could be, an urban farmer or a director of a nonprofit, or even the elderly grandma on the stoop who's making sure everyone's loved and cared for and just being transparent in that way.
Absolutely. Now, how did the community leadership program, prepare you for what you're doing professionally now? And can you tell us what you're doing professionally now? What that entails? What is a day in the life of Keenan?
Oh boy. The community leadership program prepared me by adding to my flexibility, but also adding to my curiosity about work and community and, the different people that you're going to be working with on a daily basis and how their backgrounds may affect their decisions. But the role that I have today, I work for an organization called the Aequo Fund, and it's an organization that is about leveling the playing field for Black, brown, women, immigrant developers by providing them with capital and support that they need to succeed. And the day in the life of me is in that role. I love that it's never the same. So one day I could be out on a site visit talking to neighborhood stakeholders, and other days I could be working with the developers, managing their onboarding process as a cohort and just increasing the cohesion amongst them. Other days I could be in the office, managing the database, updating that. So I love that it's very diverse in nature and non-traditional, I guess.
Oh, that's great. And is it fair to say that without this advanced degree, you would have had a hard time maybe slipping into a role like that? Did this degree help you to be able to slip into a role like that?
The program helped me to network and, get my feet on the ground as far as this could be a potential career. And this aligns with what I've been learning in the community leadership program. One of the great things about the program is that we meet guest speakers as part of our courses pretty routinely. And Baltimore's so small that whatever your passion or focus is, you're more likely to run into that same circle, and that person is going to tell, someone that they know. And there's very much a culture of looking out for someone who is, trying to do something for themselves. And it just makes me think of, small to more. You're likely to run into somebody who and can easily jump into a conversation with around a shared interest.
I love that, small to more. That's It's a nice coined term there. That's fantastic. What was your biggest takeaway from the program, Keenan?
My biggest takeaway from the program was to have confidence in my own abilities and seeing how my skills and abilities can play out in the community and how I might need to alter them in different situations to reach a shared goal for the community and for the organization that I'm working for.
Well, Keenan, this has been a really wonderful conversation. I've learned a lot more about community leadership, and I hope that the listeners and the viewers if you're watching this on YouTube, have also learned a little bit more about community leadership and how important it is to society and to the world at large. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Keenan.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of UMBC's Mic'd Up podcast. If you'd like to learn more about UMBC's Community Leadership Graduate Program, visit leader.umbc.edu.